Hello, I'm Jasmine from Lounge, and today I'm interviewing Nathan Maddigan, from Nathan Maddigan Photography. He's a Perth-based wedding photographer. He's a Master of Photography in the AIPP. Last year you won WA Wedding Photographer of the Year. This year Finalist for Australian Wedding Photographer of the Year. And thanks for your time today.
Thank you.
Answering these questions.
Hi.
So starting with my favourite 5, what was your career path and how did you get from an aspiring photographer to where you are today?
Yeah, that's a good question because I wasn't an aspiring photographer particularly. I loved people, but I was working kind of a few hundred metres that way. We're in this amazing old building now, but I was in this corporate office where I was in IT, I was playing all the corporate games and dressed well and dying inside. So my catalyst was when I quit that job. I just kind of walked out and started working in coffee, and that was when life was fun. Then I was surrounded by people and had some space and some conflict that made me push wedding photography. I had so many people who related well with me that when I took their photo they just looked good on film. So that let me start doing photography, that let me practice. I didn't really train, I just fell into it and every wedding was better and I just learned from the deep end. That makes sense?
Yes,
so
I think
aspiring
so.
photography.
And how do you, so how did you get to doing, how many weddings do you do a year now? Like, how did you get to that point? How do you think?
Yeah, that's a good question. I guess what I'm aspiring to now is the stories in every one of these weddings, that I love being able to see authentic story and then capture it and then retell it with this kind of art flair, to be able to see what just happened between souls and then to be able to paint that back to them in a way that most resonates to who those guys are. So it sounds a bit ethereal, but that was amazing. And the way I got there, I guess I'm on, 35, last year was 35, 40 weddings. The last few years have been, my goal is like 20 weddings would be amazing. I don't know how to get down to that yet, but I'm working on it. And the way was really relational. If you try to find me online, you won't.
It's impossible.
Really find me online. But I would do an expo once a year, and I would be relational and apparently different, whether that's perceived or true. Like clients would come in and just say, "You're not a general wedding photographer, and we love you for it." So I think that's how I've stayed strong in this thing, is just I care about people, and it's all the love, it's all the feels. Relational marketing, if we want to put a name on it.
Word of mouth.
Yeah.
100% word of mouth.
100% word of mouth.
Yeah. Awesome.
People talk about me well.
So what's your favourite lens, gear, software, tricks, whatever?
Yeah.
And why?
My favourite lens for a long time has been a 50mm 1.4. I'm a Nikon shooter, and the very first time I picked up a 50mm, everyone told me these lenses are amazing, and I put it onto a crop sensor camera, and I was hating it. It was like a 75mm equivalent. It killed me. And then I was in Boston with my first full frame camera years ago, and I was on a train, and I just put this thing on, and it broke me. I was just like, oh, the perspective on this f2, like it focuses instantly, but it has this depth of field that to me says intimacy, it says story. So my favourite wedding images are all on that, are all on my 50mm. That's my go-to lens, and it means I can get pretty close to a subject, and that's the relation bit that comes in as well, that I can actually connect with a person and shoot what they're doing, or shoot their lashes, or shoot something that feels intimate and relational. And that tells story for me. A 50mm 1.2 at f2 just kills me. That's my favourite lens.
Yep.
Actually, there's one other favourite piece of gear that I'm loving at the moment, which is pocket wizards. Receptions drove me mad when it was just on-camera flash and just this, like, I don't know, it felt documentary, which was okay, but a few years ago I got a bundle of Pocket Wizards, just like the AC3 controller on top of your camera, but then these remote flashes, and I put them in corners of the dance floor, and then I could just shoot the incredibly different lighting scenarios, and that excited me again. It made me want to shoot crazy dancings, and it was really exciting. So I think they're my fun things at the moment.
Very good. Yeah, I've seen that in action. It's quite fun.
Really fun.
So what's the best advice you've been given in your career?
Oh man.
Or one of?
I listened to an interview with Jonas Peterson, who is a bit of a rock star as well. And I remember an interviewer asked him about other photographers he's following, other photographers he's tracking, and he said that when he tracks another photographer, he compares himself to them and then feels like he can't do it. He feels like less empowered, he feels smaller because these photographers are amazing. And this is coming from one of the best photographers in the world. So he said he would track other artists in other mediums. He would track painters, and he mentioned Jeffrey Smart, who's an amazing painter. And so he would love art and then start learning his craft from that, drawing from that initiative, and it was just amazing to see what he came up with, and that's actually really helped me, that I can read words and see different mediums of art and then try to copy the feel instead of the medium in what I do with photography. That really helps.
I like that answer. Okay, so what photographers, so obviously he's been a big one for you, but what other photographers have been a big influence on you?
Yeah, I remember reading a Frankie mag I don't know, like 5 years ago, and there was a wedding special in there, and I loved all of these images. I didn't know who shot them at the time, I just loved them. And then I had a bride who also loved all of these images, and surprisingly, that was the catalyst for this thing we'll talk about probably later, magazine creation and everything. But it turns out those images were Dan O'Day, and that was in his early days before he blew up. So it turns out he's a favourite. I like that guy. I love Gesture Rocks because of how he broke the rules, how he wanted to shoot relational, and how it's almost like he was modelling emotions instead of modelling a pose, that he would kind of draw out a true feel between a couple and then be able to capture that on screen. I thought it was amazing. And when I heard him talk, it just resonated with me that it's not what I do perfectly, but it's what I want to do. And then there's another guy who nobody will ever have heard of, but you should. His name's Simon Höigsberg. He's in Sweden somewhere, and he did this thing decades ago called the Thought Project, which essentially he just stopped people on the street, shot them with like an 85 at 1.4, and just said, "What are you thinking about right now? Just dump it." He just recorded them, and he designed this really clean, beautiful site that just had all these faces and what they were thinking about. There were musicians thinking about songs. There was like a guy musing about the season changes and somebody else planning dinner, but it was just amazing. I guess his ideas are amazing. He's done other things where he's sat in the middle of a park and shot faces for 4 seasons and just lined them up as a collection of how people's faces reflect the seasons of their environment in New York City. And
that's cool.
Once he just set up a booth outside a coffee shop. He didn't even take photos. He just sat down and put up a sign saying free advice. Sit down for 10 minutes. And he would just hear strangers' stories, and then he'd go, "Well, look, I'm not a professional, but let me, like, here's what I think." And I just love the way, obviously something in his heart is more than just the art of it. And his ideas are fresh and new, and that really inspires me as well. So he's amazing. You'll find him.
All right. Look that one up.
Yep.
Okay, so what, in your opinion, makes a good picture stand out from the average?
Oh, wow. In my opinion, I feel like every photographer can get the same image in the back of camera, so it's not particularly the capture. But I feel like it's the last 10% of an image that a lot of people will take great photos and then they get to about 90% done and that goes to clients or it goes to the proof sheet or it goes to their website and they're good. But I feel like that last 10% is where we complete our initial idea to the final authentic proof of it. So we shot for a reason. We modeled, we posed, we set up this shot because something in our heart or our head said, this is what I see and I need to make it. I need to get it to here. But then somehow I think a lot of people leave it before they hit that final bit. And that last 5-10% might take another 2 hours on an image, but that completes the vision. And so it's authentic for our hearts and it's also something the world has never seen or that the world needs to see. And I feel like that makes an amazing image. And it's worth the time and the sacrifice. And that last 10% is probably more pain.
So it's like having the idea initially, though, to work it to there, or sometimes it's stumbling and finding it on the way?
Yeah, I feel like people generally do shoot with an idea in their heads. Unless they're ordered to shoot, unless they're told, shoot this now. Most of us, in our hearts, we have an idea. We're like, we know what our style is, or we have a style. But sometimes it's hard to remember that. And I think that's the most important thing about being unique and being a successful photographer, that we're all different. Like, we're not ever meant to be able to mimic somebody else. We're not ever meant to do that. We're meant to be able to shine and be completely unique. And that's probably just that last tweak, that last 5-10% getting back to the original unique idea that we have.
No,
Does that make sense?
I think so. I think so. All right, so you've been doing a bit of teaching wedding photography through the shoot workshops.
Yeah.
Is there anything else coming up? What do you...
Yeah, shoot workshops is amazing. It's, I mean, they're just up the road in the city. They've opened a new store and they're great with gear, but they've been running a whole lot of workshops in a lot of different fields, from basics to professional. And then they pulled me in for weddings, which you can't. A wedding workshop is a never-ending experience. I don't know how to do that, but we did 6 weeks plus an all-day kind of on-location shoot, and it's been a really great all-encompassing course. These things are happening all the time. We're doing like, I don't know, 6 a year now. There's lots of them.
Yeah.
But we start easy. We start with basics and technicals, and then we dive into like posing and emotional modeling, and we run through a wedding from start to finish, and it's a whole lot of question and answer.
Yeah.
And then we get really deep into what I think is the most important, which is that idea, that authentic heart of us as a photographer.
And finding who that is.
Yeah, and maybe practicing our own, the art of being more ourselves as a photographer. And before we jump into the industry, this photography industry, just trying to be like everyone else, we should know ourselves and then step into that space with that power, because then we're unique and then we can charge anything and be anything, because we're not trying to copy anybody.
Or even shooting, I mean, I know when I started, I felt like I had all these certain shots that I had to shoot, and it's really like breaking all of that. It's like, obviously there's some shots that the clients do probably expect on a wedding day, but there's no hard, fast rules. You kind of can sell what you want to do, sort of thing.
Yeah, I feel like if we're strong enough in what we believe about a style or a product that we're shooting or selling, then our clients won't demand anything else. Like, if I only had a Polaroid camera, if I was only shooting Polaroids with epic lighting, then they would never say, give me a digital photo, because they're going, oh, this is the guy that shoots Polaroids only. He lights amazingly, he poses and props well, and he shoots Polaroids, instant things on pegs on a line. We see it by the reception. $8,000. It's amazing value. Like, we're referring them worldwide.
You should do that.
Somebody should do that, and they'll make a killing.
It's probably, someone's probably doing it. Hopefully.
They will now.
They will now. And that brings me to, albums.
What do I do? That's amazing.
Yeah, magazine albums. You do this, and it's had some recognition over the years.
Yeah.
In the awards, and you've decided to share it with the world of other people who also want awesome magazine albums. So tell me about that.
I would love to.
Selftitled
I would love
Studios.
to. So as a wedding photographer, we shoot these amazing images and then they turn up in albums and we make thousands of dollars with albums, and it's a really good business and it works. But I found I was shooting way too many photos to fit in an album, and I didn't want to cull all my storytelling photos, but I couldn't sell 80 pages when each additional page was $120 and the original album was thousands, and I just got stuck. I was giving people these albums that looked like a portfolio of my best work.
Yep.
And it was beautiful and people would lay it out and then people would look at the photos and say, wow, your photographer's amazing, and that didn't feel authentic to me. I wanted people to say, your story's amazing, I love this moment, and wow, you have a biscuit and that biscuit is worth it. That makes actually, here, let me show you something. Can I do this on camera?
Yeah.
Can I say what these things look like?
Yeah.
So years ago, I picked up a Frankie mag and my bride picked one up and we just said, we should make magazines like this where we can fit hundreds and hundreds of pages, we can put words and pictures in together and actually have something worth sharing and putting on a coffee table. And one of the first little things that really kind of broke a whole lot of hearts was, I think, this page here, which essentially is a shot of the bride holding a biscuit and the recipe of that biscuit. And it's really funny, we talk about the ARPP, the Australian Institute of Professional Photography, and last year this album went really, really well, and one of the main images that judges loved, one of the main pages, was the recipe, that they just said, this tells us a story. Yeah, this tells us a story about people, and it's got nothing to do with the amazing photographer, it's all to do with the story of the couple. So that's what we've been doing since then. A lot of people are asking for these things. Turns out I can't shoot 150 weddings in a year and make all their albums, but we can create this other structure around albums, and we've called it Selftitled Studios, and that's where photographers or clients can come to us with all their photos and words, and we can build amazing mags. We can build small books, big books. We've made some novels. I have another amazing person in the office who shoots day in the lifestyle stuff, so start to finish, wake up to sundown, kids,
and it
mess,
fits it all
beauty,
in.
and it fits into a 300-page mag, and it's amazing. So
exciting.
this is what's going to take off, or this is what's taking off.
Yeah.
It's new and exciting, and at the moment it's kind of unique. So
yeah, we'll put that link below the interview for you.
Yeah, we love that.
It's exciting.
Yeah, life is exciting right now. It's pretty amazing.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
And thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Bye.